All right, welcome back, Little Jim Big Heart, our interview series. I've got a longtime colleague, person I've known in the industry for, since I really started, Chris Perilli. He specializes in video and marketing, really graphics and design. I'll let him touch more on it, but he's done unbelievable work with some really big names, Joe DeFranco, Smitty. He did a Wu-Tang video, Tim Ferriss, people that are like legitimate A-list celebrities, maybe not Smitty and Joe D, but uh, really awesome work in fitness as well as martial arts that expands really just presenting your brand in the best light. So, Chris, why don't you give like a quick overview of your background and what you really specialize in?
Thank you, Devin. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, so we know each other quite some time now. I would say well over a decade. And I own two different companies. The first company is called Pixel Mob. At Pixel Mob, we're a digital media agency. We have worked with people like Wu-Tang and Tim Ferriss and Joe DeFranco, Mike Boyle, and pretty much everybody in the athletic performance industry, creating courses. I've had a front row education to what works online. And consistently with this, I've been training martial arts for a long time, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and one of my coaches asked me to put together some cards for him 12, 13 years ago, and we have a business called Dojo Muscle, which offers marketing materials and assets, digital assets and print assets to fitness and martial arts businesses so that they can grow their business, get more members, and put more profit on the bottom line. And we've helped at this point over 1,800 customers globally, and we're growing. And yeah, man, it's been a unique journey to learn so much of the online game, and pretty much everybody is trying to grow and promote their business online. So I think I can offer a lot here in this call.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you were way ahead of the game. I mean, everybody is going the route or catching up on the route of like video is what's the most engaging. I mean, I remember I bought one of your courses or some products like probably 10 years ago, and it
10
was
years ago, I
about
think.
like video, like how to set up video camera, lighting and positioning of the camera. And, now like you're really leading the charge on a lot of that stuff, man. What was it like working? How'd you get in with Wu-Tang?
So, um, a friend of mine, before all of this, I worked on Wall Street. I worked on Wall Street for 7 years. I was there during 9/11. I actually woke up late that morning. Don't know why, overslept. There was an angel on my shoulder, whatever. But after that, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. One of my buddies was in Tower One. We were friends for a long time. He left after this happened, and he wound up just starting creating beats. So I was partners in a hip hop label for about 4 or 5 years. We dropped like five different albums. We did shows all over New York City. And in that time, he was just producing and continuing to make a network. And one day he calls me out of nowhere. This was probably 2000, I think 18 or 17, calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I got a job for you if you want to be involved." And I was like, "What's it?" And he's like, "We're going to release two Wu-Tang albums, one for Ghostface Killer and one for Inspector Deck. Would you like to be part of it?" I was like, "Bro, are you serious? Of course I want to be part of it." So we wound up I created so both these guys had no email list at all. All they were doing at the time is they were so focused on like the old school way of selling records, right? Where you had a label and everything, but they didn't really have the new school way of putting everything online and building up a list and marketing to them. So I made apparel. We built the list with them. We got to like 60,000 email subscribes in like 3 weeks off of just running one Facebook ad. I dropped the Ghostface album with them. I helped them drop the Inspector Deck album. As a matter of fact, I did all of the artwork for the ninth Chamber album, and it was really really amazing to like be sitting in the Wu-Tang studio. Like I'm like, these guys are like my childhood heroes, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's cool too because like they were really cool people, down to earth. It was a really good experience. We worked with them for about 3 years. I did a bunch of different content for them, and we also filmed a video that I have a little cameo at the end as a getaway driver. And it was a really unique situation. But it goes to show you, like, some people can be massive, right? They're massive Grammy Award winners, but they still didn't understand the online game. And so that's what we brought to the table.
That's great. And dude, your style, because you've got such your roots are in martial arts. You've done a lot of that. Like that pairs really well with the Wu-Tang. Like there's a lot of, the Shogun or samurai themed stuff. There's a lot of like Japanese kind of
Yes.
stuff mixed in with there. So I imagine that was a good selling point for you because of the martial arts background too.
Yeah, that and the music. And like when it comes to and we'll even talk about this today in our talk, but music, I feel like some of the best innovators in business, right? If you took Apple, for instance. Apple was like the first company that Steve Jobs was heavily into calligraphy. So the sleek, simple, minimalist lines of calligraphy he brought over to personal computing. Nobody was doing that before. And when we talk about like, and we'll talk about this today in the sense of like online connectivity and selling online, a lot of it has to do with emotion. And there's nothing better that brings emotion is music and art, right? Like art and music are basically emotionally based. And so the more that we can, and I guess this is the topic of our discussion today, but the more that we can weave emotion into our marketing, the more, one, it does one thing. One, it makes it easy for you so you don't feel like you're icky selling all the time. Two, you connect with people and engage with people on a guttural level that's way different than trying to pitch them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, man. So, I always like to bring, some solid tactics for anybody listening. Your background being creating amazingly engaging videos. Um, so I know we talked leading into this, how to get the most out of your time in front of the camera or in front of that scroll that people are kind of endless scrolling. How do you make videos that are going to get people to stop and engage and stay? And I know you have a ton of data and a ton of metrics on like the 3 second watch times and probably click through rates. So in your experience, where do we start with if somebody wants to get on video and use it to grow their business?
Okay. So the first thing that I always like to do is lay like the groundwork of what we're doing from a 30,000 foot aerial. And from a high perspective, you have to think about it from this perspective. Today, attention is today's currency, right? So trying to get attention online, it becomes harder and harder every year that goes by. And we know for a fact that I think it's every single month, every single month, the amount of content that's put online equals every single library on earth, all of the data we've ever had every single month. And this goes on every single month,
Yeah.
year in and year out. So there's like this huge area of white noise. And so like, how do we get above the white noise? And I've seen, and doing this for close to 2 decades now, if I could boil down marketing or getting on video or getting in front of you people to one thing, and it's building emotion in your marketing. Emotion, the word emotion is energy in motion. And when we feel something, we are more inclined to either purchase or buy. If you think about it, right? Buying, and there's a great book called Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think from the group we were in a long time ago, somebody made that
I have it.
suggestion.
I have it in the other room, so it must have been suggested at some point.
Yeah, it's an excellent book. And it talks about we have a bunch of different brains, right? So if we want to stay when we're marketing and talking to people and trying to create things that engage with them into that lizard brain. And I take an example, right? I make this example. And anybody watching this who's 55 and has a red Ferrari, no disrespect to you, but if you're 55 and you go buy a red Ferrari, you might logically back it up as, hey, I'm buying this because it holds its value. And it very well might hold its value. But the truth of the matter is, most of the times, the emotional standpoint by buying that is that they want to get back some of their youth, some of their vigor, right? So we know this going in. And I've done this exercise with various martial art schools, and I've had them contact and connect with their customer and talk to them and say, like, why are you training here? And I remember this conversation where one Krav Maga school owner said to me, I asked this woman repeatedly, why is she training here? What is the reason why you wanted to come here? And she said to me, well, I want to lose 20 pounds. And she's like, "Oh, okay, but why?" And he's like, well, I want to feel better about myself. But why? And after some conversation back and forth, she said, I want my husband to look at me the way he used to look at me. And so that's the real emotional driving force behind things. And usually it's like an onion, it's a few layers down. So if we know we have to get in emotion into our marketing, how do we do this? So I've found one of the key ways to connect with people is to tell stories. Tell the stories of your business, tell the stories of your customer, tell the stories of their transformations, tell the stories of their triumphs and their losses, right? We have been sitting around campfires telling stories to each other and passing down information from the dawn of time. The Bible is a storybook, right? This is how we learned for generations and generations, for centuries, through story from other people. So when you can weave stories, and the magic in this is like literally stories are all around you at all points of the day, everywhere you go. You go to Starbucks, you hear somebody complaining, you have a story about patience, right? There's like, it's around you at all times. And we always suggest to really get deep with customers and ask them, like, why are you here? Why do you come here? Why do you love? What are the things that has transformed in your life since you've been training with us? And you'll get some amazing stories. And the cool part of this is we always tell everybody to make a spreadsheet. Ask these questions, send out surveys, make events where people come and you can connect with them and talk to them. Whatever they're saying is literally your copy to use next time you're creating marketing.
Mhm.
So
Well, let me
in
stop.
terms of, go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's another tweak to this that I've always really found helpful is when we send that out, I always say, what exactly did you Google search when you came across the gym? And usually it's like gyms near me or gyms in Westchester or personal trainers. And then asking them to like, what specific, like even if you do blogs, like what specific blog did people stumble upon or are they searching for the most? And then because again, we're technical, industry people. Sometimes we use lingo that's maybe like technical jargon. So when you can understand like what exactly did they search for? So an example is like if they search gym near me and not training studio near me, to build all of your marketing around the word gym, even though like you might feel like, oh, we're not a normal gym, we're a training studio
Yes.
or a whatever. It's like it doesn't fucking matter. Your job is to position yourself right where the people are already searching based on where they're at.
Absolutely, man. You got to meet customers where you want. And I have, you know, I think there's a duality in everybody's business. I believe that every single person in every single business is special, but at the same time, we're not special, right? Like, so every single person has a unique selling point, but at the same token, most business models are very similar. And so what happens is like, oh, that's not going to work for me, or my business is different in your customer's mind, right? And I have this conversation with jujitsu people or karate people a lot. Well, that doesn't look like a perfect karate kick. Nobody who's going to shop for karate, who's never trained karate or jujitsu before, knows the difference and they don't care. What they care about is, am I going to come here? Am I going to get beat up? Is this going to get fun? Is this going to be fun? Am I going to be able to get in good shape? Am I going to be able to learn something? What's the cost of it? And what's the schedule? Those are really the things that people like. And so to your point, yes, we have to do better in meeting people where they are and then educating them versus throwing out all this lingo that actually might turn them off and be like, I don't know what they're talking about, but that's not the place for me, right?
Right.
So if you talk about stories, right, one of the big things is like you get to live vicariously through somebody else and you get to learn a lesson without actually going through the hardships. And so in storytelling, I found three other powerful ways to make those stories. Now, some people, like my buddy Jaman, Jaman
Yeah,
very
no,
well,
Jamon.
and he's a master at this stuff, right? If you can mix in these three parts into storytelling, you really have like an emotional cocktail, which you want to stay in this world of emotions and you don't want to start to go and throw out facts and figures where the person's brain links up to the high operating brain and then goes, okay, I got to figure this out. And when they try to figure it out, they're going to figure it out as no, right? You want to keep them in the emotional state. So the three ways that we found that when you're telling stories and you're telling these stories, are either the transformations of yourself, your customers, or their journeys, is to use three different things. One is entertainment, right? We've been sitting around banging drums around campfires from the beginning, entertaining ourselves. And when we're entertained, we leave and escape for a moment. The second thing is inspiration. And most of you are coaches and you're inspiring people on a daily basis. So you got that on lock. And the third thing is if you can weave in some humor into your marketing, it goes such a long way. If you look at like online, some of the things that are watched the most, it's the inspiration and humorous stuff. People next to, and I'll say this, we don't want to create like drama and chaos and division is probably one of the highest ranking things, but we don't want to do that when we're running a business, right? But if you can weave in inspiration and entertainment and humor into your storytelling, it'll be so much easier for you to lay the groundwork and connect with people and engage with them versus trying to, hey, we have a new program. You want to come here? Like that stuff has been seen so much, and
Right.
people are just looking for different, and people are looking for authentic and real. So the more that you can be that, the better.
Yeah. So, where would you start? So, what if you're not funny? But two, where do you find inspiration for these things? Even just like if you're getting writer's block or video block, content block, where would you suggest somebody go to start to find some inspiration, to find like what is trending or going viral? Because again, like you said, the stuff that goes viral is not, some guy talking about technical jargon. It's usually somebody that's got some really good looking video elements that's very engaging, and they're almost always tying stories, or we're watching somebody get hurt.
Watching somebody get hurt is a big one, but yeah, we don't want to do that. I, at this point, because the vertical content has become so big in terms of like it's insane since TikTok came out. All of these other social media platforms followed suit. So you got Instagram Reels, you got YouTube Shorts, you got TikTok. Those are the places that because those are short, digestible, and for lack of a better word, I call them disposable content. They last on the feeds for probably a week or whatever, and then they do their thing. But I always usually go to, I'm not the hugest into TikTok. I go there so much, but usually Instagram and YouTube will find most of the inspiration that I need. And then truthfully, to bring it full circle, I listen to music a lot and, lyrics and stuff that's going on. Sometimes as a creative and as an artist and as a quasi musician, I've found that if you're stuck and you got writer's block or you got creative block, trying to do more of it while you're in that mode doesn't produce the results that you really want. You got to disconnect, get out, get into some inspirational thing. Sometimes even just like walking outside with my dog, I got the idea. I'm like, wow, that's what I was thinking about, right? But when you're like in the mix of it, it's hard to kind of see. So whenever I'm looking for inspiration, I try to do other things that really like make me feel good and happy and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that are creative. And then the answer usually comes.
Yeah, there's a good book that I read a couple of years ago, and they opened the book. I think it's called A Minute to Think, and it's about building white space into your calendar to give you time. They're like, listen, if you're trying to build a fire, like a campfire, you can't just jam more wood in there. Like
You need
it
air.
needs room to breathe and get oxygen in there. So whenever you're feeling jammed up and you're trying to find a spark of inspiration, or get a fire going creatively, give yourself a little bit of room to breathe and get some oxygen going.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, if I could share some like tactical tips
Yeah, do
for
it.
people from like a filming perspective. So when I first started doing this, like the idea of filming this way was like horrific to
Yeah, I
most
remember that.
filmmakers.
Yeah.
We were like, what? Filming this way? Don't do this, right? But this is like a thing now. So if you're going to film vertical reels, you want to make sure that your eyes are on the top one third of the screen. A lot of times people put themselves in the middle, and then what happens is you have this big gap on the top.
Mhm.
You want also too, if you're doing cuts and you have multiple angles, or say for instance, you have a wide shot and a close-up shot, you want to make sure that the eyes are on the exact same line. So when you cut from wide to zoomed in, the eyes are exactly the same position so that the person doesn't search around looking for your eyes.
Got it.
If they start searching around, there's a disconnect. The other thing that I would say is, you know, I I think that when it's funny too, because I have so many coaches as clients, right? And like I've been in rooms with people who are outstanding live situation, be able to speak to a room, public speaking, because that's pretty much what you're doing when you're a coach, right? You're public speaking all day long.
Right.
But then we film these same people And then all of a sudden the camera goes on, the record button goes on, and they're like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
You know? So what happens is like people try too hard. And this is the same thing going back to the selling. They try to sell too hard. They try to be what they think people want to see instead of just being themselves. So when we tell people to start filming video, practice. You're going to throw a bunch away. You're going to hate yourself. You're going to definitely hate your voice at some point because the way that you hear your voice in your body is different than the way that you hear it with your ears. So the first couple of times you're going to be like, that's me. Like I sound like that, right?
Yeah.
So working on presenting, working on tonality, working on using your voice to go up and down and slow down and sometimes speed things up. That all keeps people, all the pacing of it. And this goes back to music and video. Music and video, the ones that people watch to the end have amazing pacing,
Yeah.
meaning they suck you in and keep your attention. It's not so there's a big misnomer in the idea of like video is to capture attention. It is, but video is to keep your attention.
Right.
And you need to be able to keep somebody's attention throughout the video. And you do that by emotion, pacing, and having something that, and like you said earlier too, right? Having some visuals. And there's a lot of, I mean, too, like at this point, AI is incredible to make like B-roll stuff. If it's not B-roll of the gym, you know, like for a long time there was stock footage houses and we can get all sorts of footage, but now like you have anything that you can think of, you can create in seconds. So the tools are all around you. And I would say to anybody who wants to start where you are. You're gonna not be great at the beginning, but that's okay. You know, if you've ever trained any martial art, you were a white belt once, you sucked at it and you kept going and you kept going and you got better. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously. Delete the first 10 of them because they're probably not going to be great unless you're like a Joe DeFranco who just, he's like one of those dudes that just hits it every single time. It's like when you work with him, it's like, okay, we're going to record it. Done? Oh, we're done. Okay, good. We're done. Right? And then the other thing too is like practice. Practice. Here's a really good tip. And this is something that I learned from an actual actor. Two things. Grab a book. You have a library of books. Grab any one. Flip to a couple pages. Just open it up. And then speak it out loud, like read out loud. And then when you're talking, try to open up the backs where your wisdom teeth are. Try to open up the back of your mouth as much as possible. And then if you really want to get crafty with it to get really good articulation, and sometimes because I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and we have a really good way of mincing the English language. And my accent comes out and I start rambling on. Take a pencil, put it into the back of your teeth, keep it there, and set a timer for 5 minutes. Read that same couple paragraphs out loud with the pencil in your mouth. Your face is going to fatigue like crazy, but when you take that pencil out, you'll be able to articulate letters, vowels, and syllables so much better. Yeah, it's almost like, you know, when you're at bat,
Yeah.
it's almost like putting the donuts on your bat.
Yeah.
So you're swinging with heavier weight, and when you take it off, it's way easier. It's the same thing as like when I train jujitsu with a gi, right? I'm so used to something that's a couple pounds on me, and especially when you start sweating, it's like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
You take it off, and you're like, you know, Energizer Bunny.
That's really interesting. Well, to touch on one of the things that you mentioned is like, you know, video is not about just getting attention, it's keeping attention, because I think there's a misbelief that everyone's attention span is so much shorter than it was. And there's probably some truth to that, but I think more than anything, there's just more options to consume. So you have to earn every millisecond of the eyeballs that you get, where before it was like, if there was a commercial on TV, that's all there was to watch. That's it. Now it's like, if you don't want to watch something, it's very easy to find the next more engaging thing. So let's frame it this way. Let's say somebody listens to this and they're getting really inspired and they're like, I want to start sharing content, story-based content. You know, you mentioned a really good thing that I think is an important point. So when I started, it was like, you could never, they would scream at you if you filmed your video, like vertically. Now, I think that's the way to do it. So step by step, tools, positioning, lighting. What does the beginner kind of need to, without crazy budgets or paid apps? What's the step by step way to get them started? Let's start with the tech, like the actual technology side.
All right. So definitely at this point, phones have come such a far way. I would use your phone, right?
Okay.
The second thing that I would do is at this point, originally, I would say that the investment that you need to make on three or four pieces of equipment. Number one, you need a microphone. People will watch bad video, but they won't listen to bad audio, right? We both have expensive microphones here. So, right, I used to recommend the Rode Go, but now I recommend the
Yep.
DJI mic because it connects right into the phone, and it doesn't even matter like what phone you have, if it's Android or iPhone or even an older iPhone, it'll connect into all of them. Great piece of equipment, probably about 250 bucks. Number two, get yourself a tripod and like a clip to hold your phone.
Yep.
Number three would be to get yourself a light. Personally, if I could, I can't really show you now, but I have a tube light and I have here, I'll show you this little ass light here
Yeah.
that costs like literally 100 bucks, and I can control it from my phone. So I could set up a bunch of lights around me and control them all from my phone. I don't have to get up and start messing with them. I could change the colors and everything. I would suggest two lights, two light stands, and you should pretty much be ready to go. And now, if I was going to give you,
Well, and a couple things. So I'm looking at a box light, and I learned this from you because before I only had overhead lighting, and I remember it was part of this course that I took. It was like that's just going to make you look kind of like shadows over your
tired,
face. It's going to look tired. So I bought a box light. I think the ring lights, are readily available everywhere these days.
yeah,
And then we use those DJI mics a lot. Like they're awesome. I mean, the quality is unreal.
yeah, the quality is great, and like your lighting right now looks amazing. And I think, and I might be wrong, but you have a window off to the.
Yeah, I got windows here, and then I got a box light on this side, and then I got lights a little dim over top, but
And so what you did that makes it look really good is because I could see the catch lights. And so like the little shiny lights in your eyes are called catch lights. And those catch lights really make your eyes pop. You have blue eyes, right? And so like the other good thing that you have going is you have it's either I would say it's maybe the window. The window is throwing some light on the back side of your body. It's coming from the side of your face. And that so if you really want to get crafty, I would say get three lights. And wow. You know what? I didn't even have it on, but I have a light over here that halos me. Now you should
yeah,
see this light that
yep,
halos me here. And
that's happening over here a little bit.
yeah, so it separates me from the background a little bit. So that's the a simple lighting system setup is, two lights, one's a little bit brighter than the other, and then something in the back to separate you off the background. And really you could get away with spending like in total maybe like 500 bucks and get yourself going with all the equipment that you really need. And then I would also say like if you're going to do anything that's sales based, use some sort of teleprompter app. There's Prompter Pro. There's a few of them. There's Big View. Trying to think off the top of my head,
Yeah, I've
but
downloaded a couple that, and they're free. Like the apps are
yeah.
free and pretty easy to use. So
And
um,
the thing with that is though, get used to and start practicing authenticity without scripts. If you could do that, which you do that in your classes every single day anyway, you could do that, you can master really the connectivity because I think that's where we're going. And I think that if you're trying to sell something like a product or a program, you definitely want to use a prompter because whenever we're in conversation, in mid-conversation, we wind up having the ums and the ahs. We kind of go off on tangents, and that's fine for content. But if you're selling, you want to minimize the words you're
right.
using because one word can actually kill a sale. So that's the only time I would really say to use a prompter.
Yeah, so that would be like a video sales letter,
Right.
or maybe on a landing page or something.
Exactly. And
And
for those, I would record those this way
yeah.
because
Oh,
it would
okay.
fit in the landing page better that way.
Oh, okay. So that's I always wondered which, like, when you do one or the other. Now, an app that I got. So I've been doing a little bit of public speaking. So I got an app called Speako, and it's
I think I heard of it.
used in a lot of different contexts. There's like there's settings for different things, but when I'm rehearsing a speech, I'll upload it, the audio, and it'll do like AI coaching on my tone, my pace, my inflection,
Oh,
filler
wow.
words. So it'll give me like a whole breakdown, and you'd be amazed. Like I think I do a pretty good job speaking without a ton of filler words, but it'll catch me. I'm like, holy shit! I said 42 times in that 6 minute clip, but it has things that you could plug into video. If you're doing, sales letters, you can turn it on during meetings to help see like how you're speaking as a leader and leading meetings. It's a really cool app. And it just goes like, my thing is people don't train soft skills like they do hard skills. And
Right.
that's a huge mistake. People just, I think, just assume this is how I talk. This is this the thing that I was naturally born with, and that's just could not be further from the truth. So we're all trainers. We all weren't great at kettlebell cleans the first day we picked one up. You fucking drilled it. You tinkered with the hand position, how your feet or where your toes are pointing out, the hand position. Like break your video skill or your communication skills down the same way. Like analyze your opener, analyze how you're closing your filler words. Treat it just like any other hard skill because it's not going anywhere. This is the future. So if you don't do it, you're probably going to be screwed when it comes to building your business.
Dude, that's probably the best way to explain it. Like communication and being able to articulate what the problem is to your customers better than they can do it themselves
Yeah.
will always pay dividends. And it's one of the most ignored things in all spaces, not just the fitness and the martial arts world, is that as a business owner and if you can communicate via written word, speaking, and the way that you present yourself on camera or the way that you present yourself to other people, you say so much body language and with the words you choose and choose not to use. And those things are so powerful. And like you said, I think that a lot of people want to be like, okay, so how do I make videos? How do I sell online? Like those things are so important to spend countless amount of time because like same thing for me. I get asked to speak on stage and dude, I was not a public speaker. I mean, the first time that I ever spoke on stage, I was first had a river under my shirt. I was just sweating so much. And then secondly, I was like looking down the entire time. And so like all of this stuff, you'll catch it. And that goes back to why I said record the first 10. You're going to see all the little quirks that you do that you don't even realize, like grabbing your hands or touching your face or like looking down. And then you can start to the first couple of ones will be like an eye opening and you'll probably hate yourself a little bit, but you get over it and you start to use those things as like really good feedback for yourself. And like, okay, I keep saying, and a good point. Cause I took some like, voice coaching lessons and stuff like that. Whenever you feel it, the urge to say, is usually, you don't really know what to say. So you're looking for the words. And when we say, and I've been privy of doing it too myself. I've been victim and culprit of it. Take a breath. Just take a breath.
Yeah.
The problem is most people are afraid of dealing with that uneasy awkwardness of silence. So what they do is they fill up the space with air, right? And with words. But powerful people are okay in sitting in the space and dealing with the silence for a second. Like if you ever been around somebody who's an amazing speaker, they master that stage. They
Yeah.
dominate like that space by taking you on a journey and being comfortable with pauses. And that's a huge thing. And that's a soft skill, like you said, that I think is really invaluable for anybody in business. And it's not going anywhere.
So, all right. So we've got iPhone, whatever Galaxy, whatever the other side of not Apple is, which I don't even know. We got our lighting, camera position. So most people, I think, do selfie videos or they're standing in front of a tripod. Is there a secret to the distance? So the framing of the body in the camera, the angle of the camera, like, do you want it higher or lower? Is there an emotional impact of that? Which I've heard there's like some nuances there about if you're trying to minimize or maximize your voice. I mean, how would you want, what's the like rule of thumb for setting up the camera in front of you and then distance?
So if you're using like any mobile phone, most of the cameras, especially if you're going to be using a front-facing camera so that you can see yourself and
Right.
positioning yourself, is going to be a wide angle, right? So with that, you don't want to be too close to the camera. Like you want it to feel intimate, but you don't want to be back here, right? But at the same time, you don't want to be like you, because you think about it in a conversation. If you're in a conversation, whatever you would do in a cocktail party is what you would do online.
Right.
You're in a conversation, you're not going to be up this close to somebody, and you're not going to be far away. You're going to be in a pretty, like, about here. The other thing too is and I think us Northeast guys, we speak with our hands a lot, right? So
Yeah.
showing your body and showing your hands helps convey whatever it is that you're trying to say. Also, too, whenever you're setting the camera, I always try to think about wherever the actual lens is, put it about an inch above my eyebrows. And then sometimes I might have to, because this is a little bit different when it comes to filming vertically than filming horizontally. But because now the camera is now oriented to the top, you might, to get that space, to get your eyes to sit on that first third, you have to kind of tilt it a slight bit towards you. So
Got it.
it's, yeah. So it's a little bit angled, which also helps minimize, your face.
Makes
Because
it look skinny.
remember, yeah. So
Oldest
so
trick
you
in the
don't look
book.
so, because that's what the wide angle does is,
Right.
I mean, the wide angle is the porn lens. There's a reason they use it to make everything look big, right? So like
Yeah.
when you're up close to it, your head, it actually makes your ears come closer to your eyes,
Huh.
right? Because it's a spherical lens. And if you ever see like people who film portrait stuff, they use these long lenses and they stand really far away. So there's no compression. So that what they see in camera kind of looks exactly like you. But a wide angle, when you're up close, your head looks really big. So that's why you don't want to be too close to a wide angle. And that's why anybody, when they're out on the weekends, they take the selfie from up here because
Yeah.
it minimizes your head size, right?
We
It
all
makes
know
you look,
why.
right, right. We know
Makes it
why.
look skinny, get some cleavage in the shot. Like,
Right, right, exactly.
all right. So the camera position about an inch above your eyebrows. Is there anything to do with like the background? So, is there distance from a wall, colorings? Is there things that can make, you really stand out, not be washed out, or, I'm just trying to cover all the technical things that you might consider without overthinking it. I think the key is like, just go and do it imperfectly. But if you did want to refine it, how would you maximize that?
Yeah, so the way you have it set up is really good. Like you're a
Cool.
distance from the wall, right? You have good light in the background. You have some interesting things in the background, but they're not fighting with you for attention. And this happens a lot where people will get in front of a really busy background and it's
Yeah.
now fighting for attention, right? You want the person's attention on your eyeballs, pretty much, or your hands or your whole body. You don't want it to go to the background. And when you have too many light, like I see this on YouTube too, right? They have so many lights in the background. And like even in my background, I have a very big studio. It's like 1,000 square feet, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
so this is just one part of it. I have a whole nother section this way, but I film this way and I set it up this way so that there's little things like, for instance, here's my desk, and then here's my picture with shelves, but it's not like overbearing
Right.
where sometimes people will go in front of a bookshelf and they'll be right close up to the bookshelf and there's all these books with all these colors and everything and it's just like fighting for your attention. And the other thing too is that if you're going to be using lights, and most people are going to be using lights, they're not going to mount them from the ceiling at 45, so they're going to be on stands. If you're close to a wall, it's going to kick a shadow to you. So the
Yeah.
further that you can be from the wall, the shadow gets minimized. So that's important too, because if you're right up against the wall, you're going to get a big shadow.
Got it. All right, cool. Now, technical, I think we checked the box on the technical framework. So is there any framework or tips that you would give somebody for like starting the video, d- storytelling frameworks, or, how would you instruct somebody to present this video that maintains engagement?
Good question. So first and foremost, do not put any logos at the start of your videos. Put
Yeah,
them at
don't
the end of your videos. You have 5 seconds to cross the
What are
threshold of
those
what you're.
stinger videos?
Yeah, right. So that was a big thing back then. Everybody would put the logo at the front, and they would make it like a movie, but it's not a movie, right? So
Right.
we're on social media. After 5 seconds,
They're
viewership
not here
drops
for
off
you.
sharp.
They're not here for you. They're here for what they can
Exactly.
get from the video.
And then, like you said, you have to earn their attention, and then you have to continue to earn it through every shot, right? So first 5 seconds, you have to cross the threshold of what your video is about. And I like to cliffhang. What I mean by that is like, if I'm telling a story, I tell this story sometimes about when I was 16, when I was 18, and there was a fist fight outside of somewhere and they started shooting at us. And like somebody pulled out a gun and started shooting into the crowd. And I would start the story off with the first thing I heard was the first round go off and I started running for my life. I thought I was going to die. So now everybody's like, whoa, what happened? And now I go back to the beginning of the story and I start telling it all. That's what I like to do. Like, I like to be like, in this video, you're going to learn exactly how we've made $100,000 in a month without any ads. Go back. Back in 2006, I did blah, 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 blah. So like, I like to do that a lot, and that stands very well. And that's kind of an idea from the YouTube days. But now, since everything's vertical and the magic in it is like they kind of gave us a blessing because we used to have to create one for YouTube, one for
Yeah.
Facebook. Now we just create shorts and they go on to every other platform, same exact video, right? Maybe you can modify them a little bit, but it works. Always cliffhang the deepest and most emotional part of whatever story you're telling at the start of it to intrigue the person to continue listening and then go back, fill in the context of the story, and then come back to the actual part that you just said and bring it, wrap it all together.
Yeah. And I've seen this done two ways. I've seen it done all in one shot where it's like, I started running when I heard bullets. Hey, this is the story. And then you tell a story. And I've heard actual, like, or I've seen like edited. So you start without the most exciting part in the
Pop,
front,
pop,
and then
pop.
you edit and drop that little 5 second clip in the beginning. And then maybe there's a little transition. Do you have a recommendation for obviously the editing adds complexity, but
I would say test it both out.
okay.
I would literally, I just did it the other day. Matter of fact, I take some content, throw it out there, see how it does. A month or two later, 3 months later, whatever, I re-edit it slightly, throw it back out and see how it does. Sometimes the second version does way better than the first.
Yeah. There's a really good, I really like the Hook Point. The Brendan Kane, his stuff is pretty cool. He posts like just viral content and he kind of breaks down why it went viral. There's another guy, I'm blanking on what his name is, but he'll compare two different clips, exactly like you just said. One clip was filmed, maybe like the lighting was a little different, or maybe the intro had a slightly different thing. And he'll show like this one got 1 million views, this one got 10,000. And he'll break down like the slight little nuances about why it's different. So again, soft skills, just like hard skills, like treat it as such because that's what's going to hit your bank account.
Absolutely.
Um,
And test everything.
yeah, and you've gone viral, like you've put out some banger video, obviously Wu-Tang, but I've seen you post, some data on like the videos that you've put out there. Is there been anything replicatable that you can, say like this video blew up and here's exactly why?
Entertainment, inspiration, and humor.
Yeah.
And the humor stuff is amazing. Like one of the videos that we have has like 20 million things in it. It's like literally it was a guy sweeping another guy and he wound up sweeping himself and knocking himself out. And he's like, and it was a funny caption and it just went haywire. And at probably about right before Christmas, we were hitting like 20 million in reach on our Dojo Muscle page. And we have like 50,000 followers at this point. And it's just funny because like I have my team, my buddy Rick, who's our social media manager and also helps with does a lot of the content creation. He's just found that and again, what works for us doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you or
Right.
or somebody else watching this audience. That's why it's so important to test because every single and this goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. Every single audience is nuanced. Every single audience has different drivers. You could have a gym and your competitor is down the road with the gym and have different drivers, right? So everybody has something that's unique. Everybody has something that unique that drives customers to your door. Finding out that what that is is going to be your basically work for your business. But once you find that out, and it really takes about a year or two to test this out and keep plugging away and taking down notes. But once you find that out, it makes everything else infinitely easier when it comes to marketing and promoting your business.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, listen, this is some awesome stuff for anybody looking to get into video. Ton of tactical takeaways. And how can they learn more about you, find you, potentially have the chance to work with you?
So I'm on Facebook, Christopher Perilli. I'm on Instagram, Chris Perilli. You could check out my website, dojomuscle.com, DOJOMUSCLE.com, or Pixel Mob, Pixel, PIXELMO, two B's like Mob Deep.com. My door is always open. If you have any questions on anything, I'm gladly answer them. I've always been like that. You need some help with anything, got an idea you want to bounce off of me, hit me up.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this content, make sure that you like and subscribe to get more of the content that you want to see about growing your fitness business. You can click any of the videos here to see other episodes, but I want to hear from you. So drop some comments into other content that you would like to see.